But once they feel it and they know why, that's Godiva.
Only today's guest, the legendary Dr. Tim Lautzenheiser, could keep us on the edge of our seat comparing 4 notes to chocolate. Welcome to Music Ed Insights. I'm leadership trainer and former band director Alan Fire, here with composer and co-college music education program head Steve Shanley.
Each episode, Alan and I talk with national thought leaders in music education with practical insights for K-12 music educators.
Dr. Tim is pretty special to me. He wrote the foreword for my student leadership book, The Group Dynamic Field Guide for Youth, 51 Ideas Student Leaders Can Use Today. We'll shamelessly throw a link in the show notes. Steve, for those who do not already know this legend, tell us about our guest.
Tim Lautzenheiser is a well-known name in our world as a teacher, clinician, author, composer, consultant, and adjudicator. Above all, he is a trusted friend to anyone interested in developing a culture of excellence with young people. His books, The Art of Successful Teaching and The Joy of Inspired Teaching, are bestsellers in the music profession, and he is also the co-author of the Essential Elements Method book. Find Tim's full bio, show notes, and resources at musicedinsights.com. Alan, what was the takeaway you had from this episode?
Well, you know, I'm a positive guy who wants to avoid toxic positivity, and Tim's definition of positivity was a cool one. What about you, Steve?
Well, there's just something about him, right? Hearing his stories, listening to his tips and tricks, I think it's impossible not to come away refreshed and ready to go.
Oh, totally. And you can hear that from the crowd. We've got audience participation in this one, recorded in May at the Iowa Bandmasters Conference. And some of our questions were submitted and even asked by our insiders. If you want the benefits of being a Music Ed Insights insider, head to our website to learn more. But for now, let's enjoy this special episode recorded in front of a live audience.
Dr. Tim Lautzenheiser, welcome to the program.
Thanks. It's great to be here.
So we are at the Iowa Bandmasters Association Conference 2024, and anytime I get to speak with someone with the wisdom and experience that you do, who loves what we do, band, I like to ask them the same question, which is this. Band is expensive. It's a difficult thing to do once we graduate from high school. Why should we still be using band to be relevant making music education in 2024 and going forward? Why not ukulele ensemble? Why not rock band? Why keep doing concert band?
Well, it's part of our heritage. It's who we are. There's so much empirical research that shows the benefits that those students have over their colleagues. There's values on the podium, there's values off the podium. On the podium is it develops the mind and the habits of the way we do anything is the way we do everything. So if I extend myself beyond what I think is possible for me, that's applicable to everything I do in life. You know, the way I make my bed, the way I mow the yard, whatever it is. So that's one thing. The demand for excellence plus, and this is not diminishing the value of all those other things you talked about. In fact, I think they're important. But you take another class on that, and if you don't want to, be up to the level that everybody else is, yeah, it's okay. You don't want to do your math. It's okay. You don't hurt anybody but yourself. In an environment where you're part of an ensemble, a musical family, the responsibilities shift dramatically.
So a couple weeks ago, we posted that we would have the honor to interview you here at the conference and asked if any of the conference attendees had any questions that they might like us to ask you. And we are fortunate to have one of those questions and very attendees ask the question right now.
Hi, my name is Danielle, and one of my questions is how can we influence the next generation of music ed students to become teachers? How can we take students in our current classrooms to turn into us?
I still think role modeling is it. When people see other people that are in the presence of joy, it's like, what serum are you taking to get you there that's legal, right? And band is fun. And it's just great to be around. And plus you learn, you grow, you expand your own mind. Your unlimited potential is pushed out to the edges. And if you have a good role model to follow. And most of us are here because of a role model.
What are 3 characteristics, like 3 behaviors, 3 role modeling behaviors that you would point to and ask everybody in this room to please execute?
I think trust is the most important one, because that's the umbrella for everything else. Then out of that comes communication, right? So you have trust, communication, development of relationships. Now, there's the foundation. What do you want to do? You want to be a show choir, you want to be a marching band, you want to be a jazz band, but as long as I've got you, I've got the potential. But there's no use trying to fill that salt shaker unless the lid's off.
Is there anything that really well-intentioned, great, well-meaning teachers do that negatively impact their role model status? They sort of accidentally goof, and they're not the role model that they could or should be, and might discourage people from continuing or becoming a teacher themselves.
Well, in today's world of social media, right? I mean, you can't sneeze and not have everybody know it. And so I think when we slip and let down and go, ugh, I mean, that's still part of the learning process. You can't just pick out the parts I want. It's like, well, when teachers say, I'm having a bad day. Oh, I'm glad you're not a surgeon. Because my life's in your hands here. Well, what's the difference? Isn't it the same? And we all know in this room that you can go to your A game when you have to. And we've all done it when we've been sick or whatever.
So I got follow up on that. We need to maintain social media in front of the students, et cetera, a somewhat positive face, and maybe not share every time we have a bad day or a bad interaction with a parent. But at the same time, I bet even Dr. Tim has to let off some steam or vent every once in a while. So what does that look like for you so it does not happen, for example, later today when you're giving a keynote to a whole bunch of band directors who are there to get pumped up?
Saving it for that. There's no question. And I think we all have friends or spouses or whatever where we can close the door and go, okay, I just need to unload on somebody. And there's where the trust comes in. They trust us enough, unconditional love, that even at our worst, they're still there for us. And vice versa. It's reciprocal, yeah. So, there's no question about that.
So I, again, just want this on the record. Even Dr. Tim, bastion of positivity, has some bad days and needs to let it out every once in a while.
Yeah, that's good. And positive doesn't mean happy. It means honest and with forward motion. That's what it means. So, those days that I'm like, I want to do this, I'm like, Tim, you're the luckiest guy in the world. You start to self-talk, right? You are fussing because you're not in coach class at the place you want to be. Oh, come on, grow up.
Well, now you sound like Alan. He's very quick to complain when he has to sit in coach.
Well, there you go.
Changing the subject. No, I want to remember those words. Positivity is something with forward motion. What was that again?
Positive doesn't mean happy. It means honest and with forward motion.
Honest and with forward motion. Yeah, because we have talked on this podcast about the dangers of toxic positivity. And that has been such a reaction to the pandemic and teacher shortages and weird things happening in public education. Is anybody here in a district where you've gotten the 5-minute chair massage for self-care to keep your mind off all the other stuff swirling around? Right, so we've talked about that. You and I have both been doing student leadership stuff for a different number of years, but for a lot of years now. What's different? I mean, we have all coped with this intergenerational nonsense of every 10 years, it's a new group of people saying, kids these days, nobody wants to work anymore. Like, I remember people saying that about me in 1984. Right? And I remember saying that in 1994, right? So we all know that's nonsense. We've all seen high achieving students, some of us for like 50 years, right? But there have been some rewiring. There has been some changes. So what do you see as what's different now compared to 5 or 10 years ago with students in leadership particularly?
The phone.
Yeah.
Let the record show that Dr. Tim picked up his cell phone and showed it to the audience.
He checked and dismissed 3 notifications.
Well, I mean, it's become like oxygen for young people. And they go, don't turn your phone on during class. And then they turn it on their pocket. Or you've done enough sessions to know trying to get rid of these is like...
I stopped trying.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's like our job to be engaging enough that they won't want to.
Yeah, this is our problem, not theirs.
Yeah. The phone has caused a difference. And then what is the difference it's made, do you think? So what's the additional challenge for us to cope with that?
People listen to what's relevant to their perceived survival. For a kid, it's popularity. There's no question about that. You can't look at the phone and listen at the same time. It's impossible. You can't do 2 things at once. Multitasking does not exist. You do several things fast.
Amen.
Right?
Yep.
But you can't do two things at once. And once they're here, and it's basically saying, and I've said it to teachers and teacher-in conferences, if you want to use your phone and check and text and all that, that's fine. But leave the room, because you're modeling something.
Music Ed Insights insider, Michael Pritchard.
Thanks. I think we talk about a lot of the challenges we face and a lot of the negative things around band directing, but what are some of the positive trends you see? What are some of the really good things that we kind of need to be reminded of, especially like in early May when we've all been like worked to the bone for the last 9 months?
Yeah, I think that's true for all of us. Again, it's a sanctuary for so many young people. It's also a sanctuary for us at times. You know, when we were talking about if I could just teach all the time and all this other stuff I didn't have to do. The other part of that is we made it. Motivation is an interesting word. Most motivation happens after you do something, not before. I mean, if we all think about that, we're excited after the concert. The kids are excited after they've done something well. We all went to college. Nobody went, oh, God, I'm so excited about writing this paper. Afterwards, you're really jazzed about the paper. So people who can withstand the rigors of, I think that's why medical schools want music people, because they're persistent. They'll go beyond, above. How many of you do marching band? Well, how much louder does a kid have to yell, I love you? The rest of the people are out there and shoplifting or whatever they do at that time, and we've got them out on a parking lot, threatening them with water. And they do it. Now, I'm not sure they do it for that, but they do it. That's part of, I want to please you. Now, the math teacher doesn't have to worry about that. They're going to fill those seats. We're recruiting and retaining all the time.
I'll follow up on the math class. So one thing I tell my music ed students is you can say, hey, my class is just as important as math. It's just as important as English. And I say, and then you better be ready to teach every kid in the school. That as long as your class is an elective, which for most people teaching band, it is, the students are there if they want to be there. You have some element of being able to gently discourage them from participating if you are, so called to do so. Not if you're teaching math. And I say, you got to pick. You either say, yeah, my subject is not as important as math, which is why it's an elective, or if you want to say it is just as important, then you got to teach everybody in the school. Where do you weigh in on that?
Bring it on.
So how does that look in a high school band program? You just take a junior who just moved in and has never played an instrument before, and you figure out a way to teach them to play the trombone and jump in on your grade 2.5 literature?
That's what I would do, but what I would do maybe not be what everybody else would do.
But I think the reason a lot of people are listening to this episode and are at this session is because they do want to do what you do. They want to be more like Dr. Tim. So that's why I'm asking the question.
Somebody said, you're a greedy person, Tim, you want them all. And you want to be defensive. And I'm like, no, I do. Yeah. I think someday, probably not in our lifetimes, what will happen is with the brain research and all that's going on is that every kid will have some kind of music every day, which that's not what I want them there, is to develop their neurological capabilities to a higher level. I want them there for the music, to touch something that they can't get anywhere else and to say something where they're safe and challenged and encouraged. But if they're getting all those other benefits at the same time, let's go. Because if we're not developing that part of the brain, they could still be successful, but think how much more successful if they have that creative, that contextual part that's triggered.
All right, I got another one that I'm guessing you don't get asked very often at these things. So on this side of the table are 3 people who are very excited about music education in the public school setting, and all 3 of us have no shortage of times where we have told the people on the other side of the table how they need to be doing things. People who are actually out there doing all of the teaching. We have a pretty good view from the cheap seats. Alan and I often ask ourselves, could we go back and do that again? And if we did, how long would we last? Could you go teach middle school band again? Could you teach high school band again? How long would you last? Honor band for a morning? You could do a 1 day of subbing. You'd do a week. How long would Dr. Tim last out in the real world as a band director today?
I never judge a man till I walk a mile in his shoes. But to be with the kids and to create a culture. That's challenging. I like that kind of stuff. Yeah. And then we'll go from where we go from there. But to me, it's always the relationship has to come before the discipline. Mm-hmm. If we just start doing the what, and the kids don't understand the why, we're threading a needle with a hay rope.
Yeah. So the idea of meeting a new group of 8th graders and over the course of 2 weeks, building the relationship, winning them over so you can eventually start teaching them how to make music via band, that still sounds like a fun thing to you.
Oh, God, yes, absolutely.
You're a role model for us all.
Yeah, I think 2 weeks is easier than one day. I do some occasional subbing here I live in Des Moines, and I do some subbing in the Des Moines Public Schools. I think that 2 weeks would be easier than one day because you can't build a relationship in one day. So you can't use relationship power. You can only use role power. That's not satisfying for anybody in the room. So I like this idea of 2 weeks. We should do this.
We?
Yeah,
or we should set up a situation for Dr. Tim to be a middle school band director for 2 solid weeks.
He is the best man up here at the table and the ultimate role model for us all. So yeah, you could pilot it for us. I think so.
Okay.
But like all states, you'll have their 1, 2, 3 groups. Everybody wants the 1 group, right? I want the 3 group. Mm-hmm. Because I think that's where the most learning can happen.
Yeah. Yep.
One of my own kids was the director of the Air Force Band, and you could direct with your feet if you wanted to, and they're going to play.
Yep.
But making music with only 4 notes, that's a challenge. But once they feel it, and they go like, oh, and they know why, and they know that's why they're trying to get that note in tune, so they can feel it. Boy, that's Godiva. That's rich stuff. I think that's why they stay eventually. They get to the point where music, I cannot live without it.
There's a research base behind building relationships first. There's a great JRME article.
Yep.
If you email me, I can find the exact article title and abstract for you, but I got very excited in the mid-90s when I found this bit of research that very clearly spelled out the value of building relationships before worrying about playing a single note. I would like to share with you a couple of the themes. We've been doing this podcast for almost 3 years now, and there are some themes that have emerged. One of them is, and Steve touched on this, that we need to include more students in music making all the way through the end of 12th grade, whether or not it's a traditional performing ensemble. Maybe one of the strongest themes we've heard is one of the most damaging things that we do is perfectionism, is to tweak everything to perfection. Just get everything absolutely right. And that because of those 2 things, some of the best teaching that's happening right now is in the elementary general music classroom. That those teachers have some stuff figured out that secondary educators could definitely learn from. So those 3 themes, the obsession with perfectionism being damaging, making sure we include everybody in some kind of music making, and the fact that our current system doesn't really benefit that, and elementary general music has it figured out. Can you comment on any or all of those themes that we've seen?
Well, probably most music teachers are control. We want to control. And it's the last bastion of dictatorship that's legal in our school system. The other thing is with perfection, okay, we have a concert. First thing we'll do is go listen to the tape and listen to the mistakes. Make a list and then tell the kids the next day, here's what you did wrong. What about what you did right? What about what you did right? Because we become our thoughts, and if they're going, after every concert, you're going to beat the holy snot out of it. And I came from that ilk of people that did that. So I'm a hypocrite. I've done it. But you can try for perfection, but you got to be satisfied with excellence. Otherwise, you'll go crazy. The demon we're our own worst enemy, right?
That's certainly a challenge for me. My last question for you was, for someone like me, I'm very focused on the product. And as I'm thinking about the process, it's basically to make the product as good as I can make it. And so early on in my career, I had a very difficult time building relationships with students because that part of my personality, my job, it just wasn't what I did. All I cared about was how the group was going to sound at the performance. And so I was talking to a friend of mine about how do I do this? And she said, well, it's pretty easy. You can just ask them what they did over the weekend. And I said, okay, well, what about like on Thursday? She said, you can ask them what they're doing this weekend. She said, really Wednesday is the only day you're going to have to come up with anything original. And so for people like me who it's a fake it till you make it kind of thing, it's not natural for me like it is for someone like Alan. Do you have any advice for people like us who just kind of need to fake that because the relationship part does not come naturally to us?
That's great, Steve. I don't know it comes naturally to anybody because we're an animal. We're defensive, right? Just fight or flight. And most of us will go into flight, and then people like you and me will fight because we're going to get it one way or another. Collateral damage isn't usually considered until after the fact where you go, oh, God, what did I do? Or it's coming out of your mouth.
Still a common theme in Steve Shanley's life. Hitting the head, what did I do? What did I say? Yes.
Choose to understand before being understood. If I were that person, what would I? And I'm still guilty of it because that's my natural tendency is to get it at all costs. And I've destroyed some children doing it.
Yeah.
And I hate myself for it. Yeah. When I see them, I beg forgiveness. And they're like, oh, it wasn't that bad. No, it was that bad.
Yeah, I wish I could go back and either give them their money back or go back and teach those students from my first 5 years especially.
Yep. I'm with you, buddy.
They'll see me and thank me, and I'll say, oh, you should not thank me at all.
I owe you. Malpractice, yeah.
And some of mine have not said, oh, don't worry, it wasn't that bad. They were like, thank you. Glad you realize it now. So I think a lot of us have been there. Steve, are you ready to ask Dr. Tim if he's ready for some lightning round questions?
I don't think I've ever been more excited for a lightning round than this one, Alan. So, Dr. Tim, you can either pick where you currently reside or the entire world, your favorite place to eat a meal these days.
Probably with my wife, wherever it is, just to be with her.
Now, all of our past 3 years of guests are going to hear the answer to that question and do yep, I totally. With his wife, let the record show. Yes. Okay, how about a favorite piece of music, a composer or performer that you wish more people knew about?
I have a great friend, Les Taylor, who is an unsung hero that he's magnificent. He's a local regional guy, and he's written a lot for various publishers, an arranger, but he's also a great composer, and his mind is...
This is concert band music?
Yes, yes.
Les Taylor, concert band music.
Yeah, he's great.
Check it out,
He's
people.
great. Mm-hmm.
All right, most memorable live music performance you've attended or been a part of?
I heard Mahler second with Chicago in December, and it was mesmerizing. Yeah. I mean, that great. And they loved the conductor. He was a guest conductor, and they loved him. And they were just all, and that's what made it. And what he did with it was good, and them too. So.
And finally, book recommendation for the audience and the listeners.
They won't even ever heard of this book.
That's good.
That's what we like.
Gifts from Icus by Wayne Dyer. It's written as fiction, but it's based on fact. And, of course, Wayne Dyer is a brilliant mind, as you well know. But it's so logical. Like, we should pay doctors until we get sick. Then we quit paying them. A complete reverse of the way our mind is. And do we know that at every moment we're making a difference? I mean, that's a lot of responsibility, isn't it? Every moment you're making a difference. Whether you say hi or don't hi, whether you look up or don't look up, what's he say? You're either appreciating or depreciating the environment at all times. There's no neutral.
Dr. Tim Lautzenheiser, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Music Ed Insights.
We're supported by Group Dynamic, a leading provider of youth leadership workshops. Alan works with dozens of schools each year to help develop their leaders. Learn more at groupdynamic.net/youth-leadership.
Or you could email me at alan@groupdynamic.net. Also sponsored by the Co-College Music Education Program. They've got a website too.
Just click their link at our website or email me at sshanley@coe.edu.
Also, The Normal Design, helping normal companies and people create memorable, meaningful, and professional designs and branding. More at thenormaldesign.com.
And Winterset Websites, website design and maintenance. wintersetwebsites.com.
Our Facebook page is Music Ed Insights.
Our website has
has program notes, links, and a one-page download of this episode's key takeaways. That's musicedinsights.com.
New episodes generally drop every couple weeks on Monday.
Get current.
Stay relevant.
Music Ed Insights.